Please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
All right, everybody, welcome to this, I guess you call it public service announcement live stream on YouTube Live. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer here at GoCloud Careers. I'm joined by Mike Gibbs. He is our founder and CEO. Boom, there's our titles. I forgot to have our titles on there at first. But yeah, so this is an impromptu live stream. Mike asked me to put this together kind of at the last minute here. That's why you just got me and Mike here. Alonzo might be popping in, but Alonzo's in the middle of some other things. So today we're going to be talking about ChatGPT, in particular how ChatGPT is going to be making AWS certifications irrelevant, AWS certifications, Azure certifications. Basically, ChatGPT changes everything. So we're going to be given some examples of how ChatGPT is going to be affecting things like AWS certifications, CloudFormation, all kinds of things. So, Mike, this is your show. You asked me to put it together. You're in charge of this one. So,
sounds good, Chris.
Yeah, let's get going.
So, if you don't know me, I'm the CEO of GoCloud Careers, and I've been helping people build tech careers for 2 decades. And I've been an architect now for 25 years. And I've always been considered a tech futurist, and I've been helping people build elite careers and always staying ahead of the curve. You may know about 2 years ago, we came out of the woodwork and so we said, tech skills aren't enough. You must have soft skills, executive presence, leadership skills, emotional intelligence, business acumen, and the ability to sell to others if you want an elite career. Now, we knew this was coming. And while we always talked about a certification only teaches you the name of a service and how to configure that service, which is never enough to get any job. Right now, with ChatGPT, this changes everything. And I want everyone in the cloud computing community to know what to do to save their jobs. Now, we may be in a recession right now, and there may have been 40,000 people that got laid off this week, but our students are still getting hired. Just today, one of my students that never worked in tech now got his first senior solution architect job. And you can still get hired too, as long as you're on the right side of the curve, that you have the special skills to offer. Now, ChatGPT is in its infancy, but it's disruptive technology. What is disruptive technology? It's technology that changes the way we do things. It changes the way we live. You know, when I was younger, now it feels like a long time ago, and you wanted to rent a movie, we'd go to the store called Blockbuster Video. And you'd go to the store, you'd search this giant place to find a video. You'd bring the thing to the counter. You'd wait in line for 30 minutes, and they'd say, Mike, we don't have that video. So you'd go back to the aisles. You'd search for your next video. You'd finally find something. You'd wait in the 30-minute line, and guess what? They didn't have that either. Finally, about 2 hours later, you left the Blockbuster video. You were all kinds of excited. You took your video home. You watched it with your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And then you worked late the next day when it was due, and you got a $5 late fee, and you worked late the next day. By the time you were done, it took 3 hours to rent a video, and you paid a $20 late fee. And then Netflix came, and it changed everything. Well, ChatGPT is disruptive technology that changes everything. It uses natural language processing, it can scour the internet, and it can learn. And here's the thing. There are things that it can't do. ChatGPT cannot do cloud architecture, enterprise architecture. ChatGPT cannot connect with humans. It can't take all of the technology vendors like an architect do and put it together to improve business performance. ChatGPT can't lead a team of the best and brightest throughout the world. That's good news for you. This is the future of your career. But what ChatGPT can do is configure things and do a lot of the hands-on things. So if you're an engineer, make sure you focus on the soft skills, the leadership skills, because this will improve your technology no matter what your career is. And there's lots of great distinguished engineers that are earning $300,000 a year, and what differentiates them from hands-on engineers is they still have the hands-on skills, but they can connect with others. They've got emotional intelligence. They've got leadership skills. They've got empathy. They've got executive presence. And now these are the same skills which we've been teaching forever that are going to keep you there. But I'm going to show you why knowing how to write a CloudFormation template no longer matters. Knowing how to write a Terraform script no longer matters. Knowing how to configure something in the cloud via the CLI no longer matters. And we're going to take an architect like me who does not touch the tech ever, because I'm an architect, and I'm going to show you how we can instantly do many of the things that cloud admins do. All the things that certification can do. And guess what? ChatGPT can tell you the things that certification teaches you wrong, all with zero effort. So I'm going to give you some samples, and I'll answer some questions because I want you all to have the best cloud computing career. And I always want to make sure you know how to do the job versus passing a certification exam. All a certification is the name of the service and how to configure that service. Employers don't care about that. And now why is this so important?
All right. So just to let everybody know, so this is not going to be a long live stream. This will probably be about a 20 or 30-minute live stream. But next Tuesday on our Head in the Clouds episode, we're going to do even more discussion about ChatGPT. Possibly more demonstrations, more Q&A opportunity for sure. More discussion about ChatGPT and how it's going to be affecting different roles in different industries. But again, today is Mike's show. So we're going to let Mike call the shots here. Mike, you let me know when you're ready for me.
I'm ready to share. Let's show people what this ChatGPT can do. Now, before we do this, one thing. ChatGPT is still in beta. Microsoft just invested $10 billion in this technology. $10 billion, even while it did a layoff, because that's what this technology can do. It's $10 billion.
Actually, let's talk about that real fast. So there's two sides to that coin. And as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, wow.
I think we lost Chris over here. Maybe his audio went dead. So, all right, here's the thing. $10 billion investment.
As soon as I get excited about something, that's what happens. Anyway, so at the same time that they're laying people off, they're investing large amounts of money into this future technology.
And here's why. This technology will give them extreme competitive advantage against Google with search. And guess what? This technology will enable them to create software 5 to 50 times faster than they ever could before, even with less workers. So you're going to see a lot coming from here. But we're going to keep this pretty specific to cloud. Now, when somebody takes a cloud certification course, here's what they learn. The name of a service, which is irrelevant when it comes to these things. It's what the technology is, how to tune the technology, how to optimize the technology, not the name that a marketing department made. And I'm going to give you an example of that and how to configure it. Now, in a certification course, they teach you how to click a bunch of boxes in the management console. Nobody does that. It takes too much time and too much effort, and companies aren't going to waste their money asking people to click boxes. They're going to use things like CloudFormation scripts, Terraform scripts for the command line because it's better and faster. And we're always looking for speed and velocity when it comes to paying people. So now what I want to do is I want to show you how we can actually do the things that are literally talked about in certification. And then I'm going to show you where it does things better than certification. So Chris, if you want to share my screen, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to do something very simple. And then I'll show you where the human intervention is still needed. We're going to ask ChatGPT to create an AWS CloudFormation script to launch 5 EC2 instances behind an application load balancer. Something that would be taught in certification. And here we're going to ask ChatGPT. I'm going to cut and paste this question into it. Now, remember, ChatGPT is still in beta, but watch what it's doing. It's automatically creating my CloudFormation template. It's spitting out an entire configuration. And mind you, I don't need to know anything to do this. Nothing, zero. Okay, it's still spitting out a configuration. Then we're going to talk about what this means, and I'm going to do some things that are even more complicated. And I will tell you and show you where this will need a little bit of tuning once we finish the script.
I've got some tech issues. I'll be right back.
And obviously that's fine. Chris will come back. And I'm going to tell you where you fit in, because guess what? If you learn the right skills, you'll be 10 times more valuable knowing how to use these tools. But if you don't learn the right skills, this will replace people. And that's why I wanted to call your attention to this as the public service announcement. Get the right training and the world's going to fight for you. Get the wrong training and you're stuck. So as we can see right now, I asked ChatGPT to create a CloudFormation script to basically launch a load balancer and 5 EC2 instances. Now, granted, there's certain things that we're going to need to replace, which needs to be tuned. And guess what? ChatGPT even needs to tell you the subnet IDs, your security group IDs, and the appropriate values. Done. Now, that's one of the more complicated things that is taught in an AWS certification. Done in seconds by technology. Now, what this doesn't know is what tech to use, why to use the tech, how to tune the tech, how to present the tech to your customers, how to lead your customers into the right solution. It doesn't know any of that. That's what architects do, and that's what distinguished engineers do. But if your training's focused on certification, you'll be out of a job. But learn these soft skills, human skills, how to use the tech to impact business performance, and you'll earn more. Now, how much does it matter? I'm going to tell you right now, statistically speaking, individuals with the highest levels of business acumen earn on average $549,000 a year, and I'll give you some examples of that when we're done. But this kind of stuff is replaced by technology. Now, we could have one really great cloud engineer do 50 people's jobs with this technology, but we don't need cloud admins anymore. So we're going to focus on that. Now, I'm going to ask it to do something else that people would typically ask things to do.
Hey, Mike, before you do that, I just got back. You may have mentioned this already, but I know I told you previously, my favorite thing is the note at the bottom. It gives you the little caveats. It's like, hold on, you may want to do some other things, or you may want to increase this or change that. It even adds in little footnotes for you. That blew my mind.
Exactly.
when I saw that. I was like, okay, so not only does it build this template that may or may not be the best fit, but it's really good. It gives you some pointers to say, here's the way to optimize.
Exactly. So it even tells you, one of the things that's a little more on the complicated side in the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional is they get involved into S3 bucket policies and writing in these JSON policies. Now, guess what? I don't know JSON. Why? Because I'm an architect and I don't code. But I'm going to ask it to write an AWS bucket policy. And what I'm going to ask it to do, now I'm going to create an IAM policy first. I'm going to ask it to create an IAM policy that allows a user access to everything other than IAM. Guess what? Poof. Now, remember, we're in beta. And this is before the $10 billion that Microsoft actually invested. So it's spitting out an IAM policy. And look how smart it is. It's going to deny IAM because I asked it to, and it's going to allow everything else. No knowledge necessary on the user other than what needs to be done. Now, architects like me make blueprints. their admin people typically deploy this. Now think about this. One person can do this all day long for customized things, tune whatever is necessary, and replace 10, 20, or 30 people. So you've got great careers as long as you focus on what the tech can do for the business, the leadership skills, the sales skills, the executive presence, communication skills, and learning how to integrate the tech, multi-cloud technology. That you can do well, and you'll always have a job on that, but not with this. Now, everybody knows me, I love cats, right? Everybody knows I love cats. And I've got this cat, Cindy, who's the most beautiful thing. I adopted her a year ago to make my wife happy. And my cat, Cindy, is like my second favorite thing in the world after my wife. So I'm going to now create a AWS bucket policy. And what's this bucket policy going to do? It's going to allow access to everything other than the photo called cats, which has got photos of my beautiful cat, Cindy. So again, I'm not a JSON programmer. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to do it. And look what's going to happen. And sometimes it's a little slow, and sometimes we have to refresh it. Remember, it's in beta phase.
Whoa, it's going to take a couple of seconds.
Sometimes it's really slow, and every once in a while, the server's too busy, and if it's too busy, I'll show you what you need to do. But sometimes it has to think.
Actually, the only time that I ever tried to go on ChatGPT, I don't know if that's the correct way to say it, but try to use ChatGPT, I actually got to a page that said that's too busy.
Yes.
I also said, oh, well, now I see where the $10 billion is going to go.
Yeah. So right now, this is in its infancy stage, but don't worry, $10 billion will make it. So let's do this.
This is more time for you to come up with those simple sentences that runs everything.
So let's do this. Let's just try to refresh the screen, and we'll do it again. As you can see,
there's your warning. Yep.
There's your warning. It was too busy. So let's ask it to do it. Did it for me this morning. And it might just be tired right now.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's busy. I mean, it's
being used by everybody.
Imagine how many sentences you could come up with. Create an AWS S3 bucket policy that allows access to everything other than a folder named cats. I could come up with 100 of those in the span that we're probably waiting on this to do what it's going to do.
And this morning it spit it out in a couple of seconds, but if not, we'll go to something else. Then we'll go back to this when the server's a little less busy.
The beauty of live TV. Oh, here we go.
Now Microsoft spent $10 billion. What do you think this is going to do for them?
Yeah. It was kind of like being on hold.
Yeah.
Or getting a busy signal on a phone, if anybody knows what that is anymore.
And next, and guess what we're going to show you? I'm going to get into a few more things, but I'm going to show you why it's smarter than your certification.
Oh.
And of course, it tells you exactly what you need to replace.
Wow.
Now, one of the problems about certification is they do vendor brainwashing. You should use this Elastic Compute Service. You should use this DynamoDB. But the reality is when you use something like that, it locks you into a single vendor. And it puts you in a position where you can't do multi-cloud, can't have critical availability, and miss out on some of the greatest things. So, let me ask it why I should avoid DynamoDB. Let's see what it tells me. So let me clear my conversation out over here. And when you take a certification, it's not going to be smart enough to tell you this. They're going to try and brainwash you into doing things that are bad for your customer. Now let's ask it why I should avoid a proprietary database like DynamoDB in a multi-cloud environment. Let's see if it's smart enough to answer that. Bet you it is. At least when it wasn't busy earlier today when I played with it, it gave me a great answer.
Let's see if it's been training on your YouTube channel. Let's see if it comes up.
It's starting to answer. Oh, well, see, it's answering it. See, already smarter than your AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional.
Locked into a specific cloud provider. Yeah, this thing has been training on your YouTube channel.
So here's what it'll tell you, which you won't learn in your certification. A proprietary database made like DynamoDB may limit your options for running and managing your application in a multi-cloud environment. Using a proprietary database may mean that you are locked into a specific cloud provider and unable to easily move your application to another cloud provider or on-premise infrastructure. Additionally, and this is the key, proprietary databases may not have the same level of compatibility with other services or have the same level of support for open standards as a non-proprietary database. These factors could make it more difficult to achieve flexibility and freedom that a multi-cloud environment can provide. So right now, this application is smarter than anything that's being taught to you in your certification. We'll ask it to configure a little more things, but I saw one of the certification providers telling people, and he made a big LinkedIn post about it, that he taught people how to create a high availability website, of course, on a single network, and he talked about CloudFront. Now, you can't have a high availability system on a single content delivery network. So do we think that this system is going to be smart enough to do it? Well, let's ask it. I'm going to ask it for a high availability website. Do I need more than one content delivery network? Because we've got certification providers trying to tell people they're teaching high availability. So let's ask ChatGPT, which we know is smarter than they are. Let's ask it. See what it says.
So let's get to some questions after this one. There's a couple of questions that I definitely know that you would want to address over here in the chat box before we get to some more fun demos.
Okay, let me ask some questions, and then I'll stop screen sharing, and then I'll definitely address some more fun demos, because I got some cool demos and it's exciting.
All right, give me just 1 second. So, all right, so there's a couple of questions in the chat box from Kenya. Goodness, what oh no, not that one. There was a better one. Here we go. Is this the future of cloud architecture? Designing, selling, presenting, and then using ChatGPT? Will this give more responsibilities to the architect?
No.
Hold on, follow up. I just feel like the cloud architect will become responsible for using this AI tool.
Kenya, I want you to understand this. This makes cloud architects go from $200,000 a year to $300,000, $400,000, and $500,000 a year because their expertise is using these tools. So a company will ask an architect, hey, how do I get rid of these 30,000 software programmers that I have? How many do we really need that are AI enabled? Remember, the cloud architect's job or the enterprise architect's job is how do I improve business performance with technology? So the cloud architect becomes much more valuable. And guess what? You're not going to take someone that costs $100, $200 to $300 an hour and ask them to configure things. So it's going to keep us further away as architects from the technology. Now, the people that are engineers, we're still going to need some. And what kind of engineers are we going to need? We're going to need really, really great engineers. Engineers with extreme competency in a single area, not a jack of all trades and a master of none. So the 10x AWS certified person, right for the employment line. Now the person that knows one thing and knows it really well will be augmented by artificial intelligence. And that one person can replace 10 regular people. So the key is we may have a really good database engineer for relational databases. They can use a tool like this, set up their queries, set up their things, and they need to be great. And this person's going to need to communicate with the architecture team and the business team. And this person's going to have to help manage other people, but one of them can replace 10, 20, 30, 50 people that are tech-only people, hands-on only. I don't want to talk to people. And because employers don't like having them around anyway, they like happy people. So this will get rid of this. So, ChatGPT will be augmented to help people. And Chris, why don't you add a little bit to this? You've got a great HR background.
Yeah, well, so this is not going to be an added tool for architects. Architects aren't going to be the ones to implement the ChatGPT. Engineers and developers and the software people, they're the ones that are still going to be doing this, but they're going to be doing it with ChatGPT. And like Mike said, instead of having 10, now you just need one that can do all 10, because now they have ChatGPT to make it just like that. Do their engineering just like that. The architect's not going to be utilizing ChatGPT day in and day out. The engineers will, which will end up in again, the work of 10 engineers being done by one, or just 5, 10, 15, whatever the case might be. Kind of like the Industrial Revolution with textiles and looms, and when the Industrial Revolution hit, the job of 10 people in a textile factory could be done by one person all of a sudden because of the introduction of the machinery. Same concept here. Those are the roles that are going to be impacted.
It's the certification only people, or the people that only have some basic tech skills, the ordinary average person. But what we're dealing with is thousands and thousands and thousands of engineers being replaced by technology, and some that are going to be so good and highly paid because they're masters of it. So, the key is, let's think about it. Hey, Chris, there was a couple other questions we can address.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to them. So give me just 1 second. You can keep talking, but then I'm going to interrupt you.
And now again, remember, this is just the infancy. As graphics process performance unit processors increase 70% per year, we can do 10 times more with that. Now, also what you're seeing is a lot of this artificial intelligence is moving off of GPUs. First it was CPUs, then it's GPUs. And it's moving on to something called application-specific integrated circuits and fully programmable ASICs, which can do things 3 and 5 and 10 times faster than this. Google already has ASICs that are 3 times faster than graphics processing units, and they're spending billions in developing that as well. How will this affect security? Well, Eric, it's going to affect security in 2 ways. And recently, a major publication asked me about it. So as an offensive security person, I can use ChatGPT to help generate some scripts to run things like Nmaps and OpenVMS and other things to figure out what the vulnerabilities are. And guess what, Eric? The defensive security people on the engineering side can use ChatGPT to also write some remediation scripts. So it's going to help hackers, and it's also going to help security engineers. Now, the key is, and we've always said, when it comes to technology, it's not how to configure it. Anybody can be taught to configure anything, and that's before ChatGPT. It's knowing what to configure and why to configure it, and that's the difference between an engineer and an admin. For example, I like to use BGP because I love BGP. Now, if I know that I need to load share without getting out of order packets, I know I've got options. I can change the weight, the local preference, the AS path, the origin code, the MED. And I know which one would do it best in which situation. Now, I can tell somebody how to configure that. That's easy, but knowing what to do and why to do it, it's going to be there. But what this can't do is it can't sell a solution. It can't convince a CEO or build an ROI model to do these things. And what you'll see, as I hate to say it, but you're going to see a greater wealth gap and disparity. The people that have these elite skills, the communication skills, the soft skills, the business acumen, which are already the highest paid people, will be paid even more. And the people that have the low-level tech skills, they're going to have a hard time. So tech skills, the what, the why, the how, and the application combined with the communication skills, soft skills, best jobs in the entire world. And if you know how to leverage this technology, it'll be great.
I think that's a pretty safe assessment there. Just a general, broad, simple statement. Is it safe to say the closer you're working the architecture, the safest the opportunities are?
Yes.
I think if you replace architect with customer,
yes,
that would be applicable to even more roles. But if you're talking about cloud computing, then architecture, to a degree, maybe sales engineer roles, maybe. But definitely the closer you are to architecture and the customer,
yes,
the safer your opportunities
the
are.
safer you're going to be. And, we felt so strongly about it that in our engineering program, we focus so much on soft skills, communication skills, executive presence, and leadership to make sure that our engineers always have these competitive advantages, because those are the things that are going to help the engineers.
All right. How should a cloud architect interact with ChatGPT and work? You shouldn't.
You shouldn't. You need to have the knowledge.
Yeah, having the knowledge and being aware of it. Kind of like what we're doing is just tinkering and playing around. That's about the depth that you should go. But
I will give Belusa, I will give you an example. In fact, I'll give you a good example. So when I tell people to learn the cloud, I'm going to just share this real quick.
Yeah.
When I tell people to learn the cloud, and they ask me, but Mike, I don't understand what you mean by learn the cloud. What if I don't know the name of a service? And I say, if you understand how to drive a car, you can drive any car. And if I say, for example, if you know what a virtual machine is, it doesn't matter whether you're in Azure, AWS, Oracle, Google. So let me ask you a question. Let me ask it, and this would be the kind of question an architect would ask. What's the equivalent of a virtual machine on AWS, GCP, and Azure clouds? Because I just know I need
like
to
an interview question.
It's an interview question. It's also what I need to know as an architect. Hey, if I'm at the AWS store, what do I need? If I'm at the Google store, what do I need? And a cloud is nothing more like going to the grocery store. If you need eggs, you can buy them from any of the stores. So let's ask it. Let's see if ChatGPT is smart enough. Let me go try and refresh this because I've asked it this before and it's already given me an answer. So let me try asking that question one more time. Okay. So there you go. As a multi-cloud architect, guess what? You now know how to answer the question. You know you need a virtual machine. And there you go. You asked it an architecture question. Hey, I need a virtual machine. What's it called? And that's why that nonsense in your certification where they tell you this is this instance, this letter means this. And I say know what a virtual machine is and go to the website and Google it every single time. Same thing.
Yep. Let's see. Yeah, another security question. You just answered that when it came in while you're right before you put it up there. I'm saying if there may not be any more questions. It may just be an active chat today. Oh yeah. Riyadh says, would data scientists and machine learning professionals be in a much higher demand as a result of such technology disruption? That's what I'm really curious about. Because if you've seen some of our previous live streams, when people ask about what we individually think the future is, I've always said that along with cloud, data, anything data is just going to continue to grow and grow exponentially. So I'm really curious as to what's in store with this, because there's all kinds of possibilities. Mike, what are your thoughts?
So what I think is, yes, this will create more engineering opportunities in the data science and machine learning world. But, and here's the but, at some point our AI can also write our Python scripts. In fact, I'll write a Python script with, and I don't know Python, I'm an architect. I'll write a Python script today. So Riyadh, what I'm going to show you is the farther away you get from the tech and the closer you get to your customer, the better off you're going to be. And, there's certain things in data science which I think are going to be great. So the data scientists that really know how to analyze the tech and take that tech and present that tech to business leaders in a way to make better business decisions, those jobs, hugely valuable. But the number crunchers and the data engineering people I see, again, being as less important. So the closer you are to the customer, the closer you are to helping the customer make more money, yeah, I see a lot there. But I do see jobs for machine learning engineers. But remember, engineering can easily be outsourced to machine learning type things. And also, engineering can be outsourced anywhere in the world because geography doesn't matter anymore.
Let me see. How will Microsoft and Azure use this? Oh wow!
I got a couple. I have a couple theories on this one. Well, first, Microsoft is going to integrate it into Bing, and now you got a choice. When you Google something, you can get the Fred's Aunt Martha's website or Billy Bob's website, which has no credibility whatsoever. Now, people like me, if I wanted to read something from AWS, I go to AWS's site, not somebody's blog. So, but not everybody does that. So first, you can ask a question and get a better answer than you probably can with Google. So this now gives Microsoft extreme competitive advantage against Google, and it will, I believe, give Microsoft Bing a major thing. How scared is Google? They called an internal code red about it. So this is terrifying Google. Now, how else will Microsoft do it? You know, I think Microsoft has about 300,000 employees. You got to assume about 100,000 of programmers. Can you Google that for me, Chris? How many employees at Microsoft? Microsoft will probably
55.
be, how many?
55,000 before the.
55,000 what?
You
Programmers?
said how many employees does Microsoft have?
Yeah, only 55,000?
It's 55 before the layoff. At least
Okay.
that's what the Business Insider article said. Let me check.
Yeah, I think that's light. Let me see.
Go figure. Yahoo search is not as good as Google.
Okay, Microsoft had approximately 221,000 employees as of June 30th. Okay, so if you figure 25% of them are programmers, they could probably get rid of 50% of their programmers with technology like this. So Microsoft, if they're a heavy partner in this, can probably develop software at a much greater velocity, so 2 to 3 times faster than their competitors at a lower cost. So what's that going to do? It's going to increase their profitability, increase their ability to sell new products to their customers, which can in turn raise their stock price. So I think it's going to be a big boom for Microsoft investors. This is not investment advice, but you know, I think this will have a major impact on shareholder value, which that's what the CEO's job is, to increase shareholder value.
All right. All right. So look who decided to join us there.
Yeah, we got Alonzo from my team.
Hello,
All right.
everyone.
Hot off the presses there, Alonzo. You're just in time for some more demonstrations of the beauty of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
So
always looking
remember,
forward to
we're going to have
checking
some
out.
more fun with this, but remember when we're dealing with ChatGPT or any automation, we are in beta right now.
Yes.
Beta. And
Beta.
Microsoft just is spending an
Small win.
additional $10 billion. So when we're in beta, we're not going to expect the quality to be as good as it's going to be with $10 billion. That's
Yes.
So
about
I
10
gotta,
times the investment it's already had. Two, we have to
Yeah.
remember that right now the technology needs human oversight. So I can generate 100 scripts per hour, and maybe I need somebody smart enough that's capable enough to go edit those 100 scripts per hour, and maybe they can do 15 scripts per hour than they could have before, where they could do 2 or 3. So
Yeah.
huge
I'm
improvement.
I'm about to bring up something here. Alex says, in a world where customers are asking for on-prem solutions, I'm really surprised how dazzled you are from this AI. So there's 2 things here. AI is anywhere, on-prem, cloud, anything. And we're dazzled by what it's going to do to industries.
Yes. It's a disruptor.
It's a disruptor. What it's doing now is just a very small percentage of what is capable. Just like the $9 billion that the Pentagon invested in multi-cloud is just the beginning.
Yeah.
We're dazzled by the implications.
Exactly.
The ripple effects that this stone being cast into the water is going to have.
The ripples there. I think I'm not sure about dazzled, but from our perspective, understanding what that's going to do to jobs, what that's going to do to the industry. These are just initial concepts that are being rolled off of the assembly line. So you think about, if you look ahead to 12 months from now, let alone 3 to 5 years, about how that's going to affect jobs, how people who this technology is headed for in trajectory, what they're going to need to plan for to escape the reverberations of this. This is what we're thinking of on a short and long-term scale. So it's not us focusing on AI, but it's focusing on what this is going to do to people and what they need.
Exactly. And that's the difference between engineers and architects. Architects are all focused on the tech. I don't care what the underlying tech is. As an architect, I need to know how to design it. I care what it can do for business. So in my village in Greece, which is tiny and has 5,000 people, but it recently got up to 10,000 because there's been an immigration, and they don't have any sophisticated tech people in this village. Now this village can all of a sudden start to create software and things that they never had. You know, villages all over the place are there. But, you know, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and this next part, definitely. So customers I know are challenging given a logistic regression to make a business decision, but somehow now businesses will trust software as a service AI. Come on. Yeah, no, that's nope.
I'm not saying that at all.
I never said that at all. You're reading into this.
Not at all. We are saying that this is a tool. This is like the best hammer you have ever had.
Yep.
Yeah.
That the person that is responsible for convincing the customer to make a business decision will be using. They are not going to, anybody that trusts AI completely without any oversight or any tinkering or any tampering.
That's insanity.
That's a bad decision.
We could use the Skynet example all day long. You know.
But yeah. So it's I think our excitement about the possibilities is getting us away from the message of this is a tool. This is a tool. This is a tool that simplifies the job of the people that are responsible for doing the things that you're talking about here in this post.
And it makes
no everyday customer like me, the COO guy. I'm not gonna trust the machine, but I'm gonna trust Mike or Alonzo.
Exactly.
And I don't know if Mike and Alonzo use the machine, but I'm gonna trust them.
And the key is someone like me will use the machine, but when I design an architecture, it takes me 50 people. Yes, if there's some information from data science that the organization's collected from their petabytes of data that they ran through machine learning algorithms, hey, wait, that gives us some inferences to predict. We can then ask the customer, hey, have you seen this? It gives us more predictive value. When we're designing architecture, we're taking business problems and we're solving it. I remember when my organization helped develop one of the first black box trading systems in the financial market back in 1999. We had a bunch of mathematicians that were looking at historical news information to determine whether to buy, sell, or trade. And it did it at a speed and velocity faster than the traders. And this thing was making millions of dollars a day. Was it perfect? No, but it was better than the traders were. And it was faster than the traders were. And the company made millions and millions and millions of dollars off of it because it was good. And yes, every bank has black box trading systems for the last 2 decades because of it. Do they still have manual traders? Yeah. Do they periodically evaluate these things? The answer is yes, but they are tools. That's why we have drone airplanes that the military uses too, but we still have planes that are piloted by people. The better the tools, the better the information. The better your information, the better your starting point, the better you're at. So I got choices. I can hire a human, and I want you to understand this from a business perspective, Alex. Here's what an employer faces. I got a person that comes and says, I want work-life balance. Then the person gets sick. Then the person wants health insurance. Then I got to worry about the person asking for a raise or go on strike. AI doesn't get tired. And yes, this is disruptive technology. It will change the world. But like anything else, as I mentioned, it doesn't have communication skills. It doesn't have leadership skills. Doesn't have executive presence. Doesn't have the ability to build an ROI model for my customer. Can't convince my customer to sell things, but it's the start of something. And remember, it's beta. Beta.
Yeah.
And with an additional $10 billion, it's going to get a whole heck of a lot better beyond anything you can possibly dream of. And that's just Microsoft's $10 billion of investment. You don't think the other companies are going to add 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 billion, $100 billion? You don't think the banks are going to be using this? They sure will be.
Well, it depends, depending on how good their shares are.
Yeah. And banks are using artificial intelligence too. They go to NVIDIA and they have huge numbers of servers that are packed with GPUs. And they've all got their own data scientists, but they also use cloud solutions. So it goes both ways. You're never going to see one tech do it all.
You got some more examples here, Mike?
Yeah, I'll do a couple more because this is kind of cool.
All right. And then we do have to wrap up, everybody. As much as we'd love to stay here as all day long, but guess what? Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to be back again. We're going to be talking more about this on our Head in the Cloud show on Tuesday, and we can't wait to see more of you. So, Mike, looking forward to some more examples.
Yeah, let's have some fun with it.
Yeah, the purpose of this is to point out that this changes the relevancy of certification skills.
Yes.
And how important or lack of importance these skills now hold because of the ability of things like ChatGPT to, as you previously saw, write a template to do engineering or to do configuring. It's changing the game for configuration, maintenance, etc. So here we go. Let me bring this up.
So now let's get a little more complicated. Let's ask it, and obviously it still needs to be edited, but it's even going to tell you where. Let's ask it to create a CloudFormation script. I think AWS calls it a template, but it's really a script for a 3-tier website with an internet gateway that's secured by AWS WAF and Shield. Pretty much the whole basis of the certification. Let's see if we can do it.
Create an AWS CloudFormation script for a 3-tier website with an internet gateway secured by AWS WAF and Shield. Single cloud. Oh no.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's cranking.
It is. Wow.
I was going to even tell you what to fix.
I'm going to go into overstack and copy this code. I'm just kidding. So we're just automating people going and copying code off the internet.
Yeah, so
everybody knows that's the reality of nobody made their own code anymore.
And that's the thing, it's still probably going to be needed to be edited. So instead of writing the stuff, now we got something that's an incredible starting point where one person can edit this thing faster than doing it. And that's
Mike,
yeah.
So when this produces this template or the script that's in this platform, and this is literally me as somebody that's not used this, because my one time to try and use it was too busy. So I'm assuming I copy this and paste it into my script editor.
Yep.
And and then go from there.
That's it.
And if I'm using a really nice one, it'll color code and say that this is broken. I need to fix this. And
Yep.
All right, cool.
But it's going to even tell you which parts you need to modify in the end. But imagine imagine now you've got somebody really good, and then they're augmented by this. So they can take this, it can speed up their workflow. So the closer you are to the customer, the more business, communications, leadership scales. You're not affected by this.
Yeah.
Did you just stop it?
No, it's not perfect. Sometimes it gets a little stuck.
Okay.
Actually,
I think he stopped it. I think he accidentally stopped it.
I may have accidentally stopped it. I think I did.
Yeah, you started typing something in it.
I did. I started typing. I can ask it to do it if you're curious. And then I'm even going to ask it to write a basic Python script.
Yeah.
Anakin says he's going to ask it to create Skynet. Please don't.
No.
Please don't.
Please don't.
No, thank you.
If you do, James Cameron's going to come asking for his royalties.
Sometimes it runs out of words and characters too. Like if you ask it to write something that's, but as a rule, I mean, think of it printed out a full one for me yesterday. But it can't do architecture.
Just create says you can type continue when it runs out of tokens. Okay, interesting. You can ask it them. Oh, I like that. Is it a it or is it a them? How to deploy this? Wow. Yeah, you probably could. After you create it, then you turn around and ask it how to deploy it.
Okay, here we go. It gave us what we wanted this time. Now, one of the things that they teach a little bit about in certifications is how to write a little bootstrap script, which is a little bash script to launch like an Apache web server. In fact, I saw someone actually writing a whole blog about it. It was like 20 pages long.
Wow.
And I was like, why? It's three lines long.
Yeah. Like golden images and such.
Yeah, so let's actually create a Linux bash shell script. And after we're done this, and ask it to launch an Apache web server on we'll be careful. We even say Amazon Linux.
And just to be fair, by no means are we experts on this.
No,
we're just playing. We're executives.
Yeah, we're executive. I'm a CEO.
Playing around with this, but we see the implications for the people that we work with, and so.
And that's the thing we see and my job for the last 25 years has been advising companies, the world's largest companies, biggest banks, biggest internet service providers. How do you stay ahead of the competition with technology? That's what architects do. I also was a strategy consultant for business as well. So Let's ask it to write a bash script, like a bootstrap script.
Pierre, you should not be sweating. Pierre, you are way beyond this.
Yeah, Pierre, you've got good business skills, leadership skills, communication skills. Yeah. This doesn't affect you.
While we're waiting on this, there's actually a question that came in that I wanted to address after the demonstration, but we can.
Okay, there we go.
I was going to ask this question. What about packages and dependencies? Okay, so it tells you what packages and dependencies you need. Wow.
Awesome. This is crazy.
So if you need, okay. Wow.
Yeah. And then, heck, let's write a Python script to create a random.
It went and installed the package.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it's got it includes the code for installing the package. Obviously, it didn't go and install it, but yeah, wow.
Yeah, sudo yum update, which updates the operating system, then install the HTTP daemon.
So when you and I were talking about this the other day, and I was talking about the data analysis and the data science, that was the thing that was in my mind. What about packages and dependencies and things like that? So it'll include that, and boom, that's part of your code. Wow.
Yeah, and let's do one more to prove a point. Let's write a Python script to create a random secure passwords. I'm not a programmer or an architect, so let's see if we can code. Doesn't look complete yet. Let's see what else we can do.
So while we're waiting on that, this is the one that I saw earlier that we can talk about for a split second. Desmond says, how do you separate yourself if everyone has ChatGPT?
Desmond, here's the key. You are more than the tech. So when we're talking about architects, and let's end on this, and then
not just architects, but
engineers too.
The day and age of ChatGPT and AI.
Yeah. Tech is just a tool.
Yes.
So, here's the thing. If you're a carpenter, the hammer is not what makes you special.
Right.
It's the ability to use a hammer, a screwdriver, nails, knowing how to measure, knowing where to cut. It's just a tool.
Yes.
And any piece of technology is just a tool. Now, if your whole focus is on learning one tool, this makes you irrelevant. But if you're a professional, this supports you and makes you better. So, when I learned to practice internal medicine, we actually had less tools. I remember, here's an example, Desmond. A patient had what was called a macular papular rash. And I'm trying to send the patient to a dermatologist. I knew the patient had a condition, and I said the patient has a 6-inch macular papular rash that's 1 centimeter wide. Now, the dermatologist knew what a maculopapular rash was that was 6 inches long and 1 centimeter wide. You know what we do now, Desmond? We take a picture of it and we send the picture to the dermatologist. See, it was knowing what it was, just the way of communicating it had changed. Now I've got a camera, which is actually the tool. But before that, what I actually had was the description. So what it does is change things. And just to prove a point that it actually finished, we can see that it actually did finish the random generator script. And not only did it finish the random generator script, it even tells us where we should change our passwords and things like that. So it did everything for us.
That's crazy. That's amazing. But
it tells you how it does it too.
We have to remind people, as a movie reference, we got to remember that, like, say, for instance, Tron, that movie, they've rebooted it and they've come up with different versions over the years. You have your programs in that world. However, it's the user or the innovator itself that you can't replace. You can't replace gravitas, intuition. You can't replace a lot of these very important qualitative skills that you can't write code for. So again, it's about innovating yourself, wrapping yourself and insulating yourself with soft skills, emotional intelligence, being able to have that human component, that human element that keeps you out of the steamroll of this technology.
Yeah, and someone talked about data science and machine learning. Same thing with those roles. Those roles, having the ability to communicate the findings, the needs for more information or more input, having the ability to communicate that information, and those soft skills to get that information, get what you need, and make your points. So important in those roles as well. While we speak mostly in towards architecture roles or engineer roles, this is going to have implications throughout every aspect of the tech industry, let alone aspects of every industry. Marketing, Alonzo, imagine what can be done for marketing with technology like this. I mean marketing campaigns that take weeks and months to put together just for one asset. Just for one asset.
Just
takes
for
weeks.
one asset.
Now you get an asset in what, 30 seconds, a minute?
Yeah, you can. It's a lot like, First Man, running into fire, for the first time and trying to understand and contemplate what it is and what those ramifications are, and I know this may be very dramatic to say, but, I could say, okay, I want to market about X, Y, and Z, and it'll lay out a plethora of ideas. Or I did some research and there was a high school student, or rather a high school teacher, and it was writing entire exams with key code. So now, immediately from a student's perspective, a lot of universities are banning ChatGPT because it, as you can tell, it will open the doors that you yourself have to use your own personal learning experiences to create that competency, and that just blows it all out the water. So how are you going to fight against that? How are you going to, like, case in point, you can't, but the thing is, like I said before, you can't teach innovation. You can't teach gravitas. You can't teach any of these things that it's creating code for. So it's, to my point, I strongly believe coding, developing, it's not enough. When you're
not even close.
Find something. Imagine putting a automated script on this, or some sort of step function where you tell X, Y, and Z to write this all day long while you're sleeping, and it continuously lays it all out. It's intimidating.
And I'll show you where the search are irrelevant, but think about it from a global perspective. $100,000 in the US is equivalent to $28,000 in India. I still need some engineers that are smart enough to fix the scripts. So now I can pay $15 an hour to somebody in India to get a really great programmer, which is the equivalent of giving $100,000 in the US. And I can send them 100 scripts or 200 scripts a day, and they can fix them. So it's the human side. Now let's talk about the difference between certification knowledge, which is worthless. It's the name of a service and how to configure that service. And guess what? The name of a service doesn't matter. And how to configure that service, we just showed you the tech can actually do, versus actual knowledge. So certification knowledge is, here, S3 is where you store your stuff on AWS. Here's how you can configure it. I don't need anybody for that. And I'm not going to pay for that. And that's why certifications won't get anybody hired. Now, if you ask me, if Alonzo asked me, what's the difference between object storage and block storage, what I should use and why?
Mike, what is the difference between object storage, block storage, how you should use it, and why?
Okay, Alonzo, let's talk about both of these storage options. They're both what's called storage area networks, which means they're accessed over a network. And their application is completely different. I'm going to begin with object storage. With object storage, we have the data which is broken down into little things called objects. Now, each object has, what's special about object storage is object storage has data about the data. It's called metadata. So I take my data, I provide some information about the data. Now, when we go into this, what happens is we now have the ability to identify all of the data in our object storage. Now, we can't use object storage and connect it to a server, like a hard drive, or like block storage, which I'll get into in a minute. But what we can do is we can use it for backup and archival purposes, software distribution, video distribution, and such. The reason we cannot attach it to a server is as follows. With object storage, we have what's called write once, read many times. And when we write once, read many times, the reason it's this is the second anything is touched or modified by even 1/10%, here's what ultimately happens. It creates a new version. So imagine attaching it to a file server, a regular server, which has a swap file, which is 1.5 times the memory. So you got a terabyte of memory, you got a 1.5 terabyte swap file, and it changes 60 times per second. We would have 60 1.5 terabyte objects per second. So object storage is useful for backup and archival purposes. None of that's taught, by the way, in certification, but that's the knowledge that you need to understand it. I could do the same thing for block storage. That's not covered in certification. Now, a cloud engineer needs that knowledge. That's what makes them special. The cloud architect, again, needs that knowledge. That's what makes them special. But what's taught in certification, here's the name of a service, how to configure that S3 bucket. We already did it. We did it in seconds and wouldn't need to know anything. So the key is cloud knowledge, very beneficial. Architect knowledge, very beneficial. Cloud engineer knowledge, very beneficial. Expert programmer knowledge, very beneficial. But if you're an ordinary average programmer and you don't have the soft skills, communication skills, leadership skills, and you don't know how to solve business problems with technology, that's who's in danger by this. The ordinary average programmer, the ordinary average cloud admin, people whose training revolves around certification versus competency. They're the people that are stuck. So master your career. Do not waste your time and get 10x AWS certified or 10x Google certified or 30 certifications. Be an expert at your job. Train like an Olympian. Train to be the best. There's always a need for the best. Connect it to the business problem you're trying to solve. You're always needed. Be the person with the best attitude. You're always needed. Bring out the best in others. Alonzo can take 50 people and make them all happy and excited to work. That's far better than if he was just good at his job. If he can make 50 people work 20% better, hey, guess what? He added an additional either 5 or 10 people to the team. I didn't have to do the math in my head on the fly. But, that's the point. So those are the skills that make you there. So, we train people to be the best without all these skills. But, it took me $325,000 to education to learn these skills. Alonzo, you have what, $150,000 education?
Oh, yeah.
Chris, you have the same?
Yep.
Why do you think we invented our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, a program that gets people jobs? I had a student today that became a senior cloud architect and he never worked in tech before in his life. First job during a time where organizations are getting laid off. So whatever you do, just focus on being the best. Don't let certifications drive your goal. Let knowledge drive your goal. Let your career drive your goal. And if you're with us, great. If you're not with us, ask someone with a principal title or a distinguished title or a director title because they've already made it and they can guide you to your career success. But stay away from anybody new because they're lost. Stay away from anybody with an associate title because they're what's called the trainee. And what happens is they either graduate their traineeship or they get fired and they don't do it anymore. So stick with people that have been around for a while. But be the best, be the best, be the best. Because I want you all having great careers. I wish I had more time, but other media is actually contacting me for comments. They do so all day. If you haven't seen my article in Forbes this morning, please check it out. My team will provide the link below. Media reaches out to me every day because we have such a reputation for getting people hired. I want you to see us on Tuesday night. We're going to talk much more about this, but I just wanted you to focus on this because public service announcement, focus on being great at your career. Don't worry about certifications. The tech can do the certifications for you. Any comments from you or Alonzo?
Couldn't agree more, Mike. Yeah.
Depends. How long do we have to talk, Mike?
You guys have as long as you want.
All right. Alonzo, let's hear your thoughts about ChatGPT and what your thoughts are, what your conclusions. I don't know if conclusions is the right word, but closing comments for today's session.
Yeah, I would definitely say, guys, I surmise that this is definitely putting a lot of people on notice when it comes to just relying on technology without honing their ability to create bonds, strengthen their social component, their social element. And, nothing is ever going to replace people. This is not Skynet. This is not us being in the Matrix where the Merovingian or anything else, the creator or however you want to define it. But it is something that as we continue to move on into that tech, that it's just very important that people learn to step it up when it comes to their social element and creating that gravitas, that leadership, being able to socialize within the team, because I know a lot of cloud engineers, they may not want to engage or feel like human engagement is their strong suit, but it puts that component, that notice in there that you need to start honing some additional skills other than engineering. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, so just a couple of comments here, and then of course I'm going to have a lot more on Tuesday night. I'm really looking forward to Tuesday. It's going to be exciting. Little known secret about me, I like to code sometimes. So I get excited about this type of stuff. A couple of people brought it up in the chat box about what about this or what about that? What if it's not perfect? What if it's not right? But so this is not something that's going to kill every job. This is something that's going to drastically change the landscape of jobs. It's not going to get rid of the engineer role. It's not going to get rid of the admin role. It's not going to get rid of the developer role. It's just going to turn them into scarcer roles, more what's the word I'm looking for? More nuanced or niched roles that will require more nuanced or niche skills than just the tech. The engineer of the future is going to be able to do the work of multiple engineers of today or just a year ago. Same with the developers. There's still going to be the need for those roles, but not to the volume that we've been used to in any way, shape, or form. Just like it's the same thing with McDonald's and their kiosk at the thing. Think about what 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you would go into McDonald's and there would be 5 or 10 people at the front counter to be able to take orders. Now there's one person, maybe, but they're also responsible for the coffee and the cookies and the water.
Yeah.
But that's because of the kiosk. So it's not going to replace completely that role of the engineer or the developer. That role is still necessary. It's just not going to, when you got 100,000 openings for an engineer now, you're going to have 10,000, not 100,000. They're going to be fewer and far between. Someone asked about will this kill jobs or create jobs? Well, both. It's going to every advance. Alonzo, you're muted. Every advance in every industry and every generation has ultimately led to the growth in jobs. It's just where will those jobs grow? The more and more and more and more humans are getting more and more into service-related roles instead of production-related roles. That's probably going to continue happening just because of the nature of automation. Humans are going to be able to have more opportunities to do things that require somebody to provide a service to them instead of to produce something, because production can now be done by machines. And production is the thing that's going to continue to be automated by machines. The service, which is where all these skills come in that we continue to talk about, that service is what's going to continue, those service-related roles, whether it's customer service, customer management, account management, guest relations, those types of things. Those types of roles will continue to grow. Anyway, I could go on and on and on about about this, and I look forward to talking about it next week on YouTube on our Head in the Cloud show. But before we wrap it up, I know I didn't start off the show talking about these things, but I do want to remind everybody, every week on Thursday, we did one just yesterday, but next Thursday, we're going to do a webinar about how to get your first cloud job. So make sure to register for that. The link is in the description. It's also, I'm going to put it in the chat box over here. So make sure you register for that. We talk about what cloud architects do, what hiring managers actually want, what you actually need to know, learn, the tech, the .tech, all the skills that you actually need and that are desired. We talk about how to deal with HR and just we go over everything that you need to know, and we answer your questions. So make sure to join us on that. And I think just want to close it out. I want to thank everybody for coming and joining us today. It's been a fun show. I'm glad we decided to do this one at the last minute. Glad Alonzo was able to pop in and join us. Mike, thank you for showing us those examples. And whoever said they were going to build Skynet in the chat box, please do not. So, hope everybody enjoyed this show. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. Don't crash ChatGPT over the weekend.
I know many will.
So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Take care, everybody.